Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to show you how I propagate my Monstera Albo from start to finish. Now, we will be working on this Monstera Albo right over here. If you recall back, I think it was several months back in the summer, I got frustrated with my plant and I decided to cut it down because it wasn't producing big leaves like this. So I went ahead and I gave it a cut, and the last cut was right over here. And it's giving me these 3 beautiful leaves. So I first received this one, then this one, and then this one. So this is the newest leaf. So this will be a 3-leaf cutting. And something interesting about this plant is that it's giving me these really long aerial roots. And yeah, it's just excessive. It's like half the size of me, half the length of me. So I will not be using it. It is viable, but I won't be needing it. So the way that I like to propagate my Monstera Albos is first I like to air layer it, and you've seen me do this a bunch of times before. I'll put some moss on the little nubs of the aerial roots just to get it activated, and then once it starts, you know, growing and getting longer in length, I will then give it a cut. So let me show you this. So here are the aerial roots. We have 2. We have one up here that looks perfect. That's what I want, and it's going to do very well in moss. And this one is activated and it's growing, so we're okay. It's the air layering worked. I didn't get secondary roots, but that's fine. Now, like I said, I will not be using this aerial root because I will be actually making my cut right over here. So I'll be cutting right here. And the reason for that is because this stem looks very suspicious. Like, I don't know why it's dark like that. So we won't be using that portion of the plant. And to be completely honest, I think the cut that I make from here down will actually be thrown away because this stem actually came from a node from this leaf over here. So once I cut this off, I'm left with this chunk over here that has no hidden nodes for me. The next hidden node is probably like further down over here. I don't think anything will grow from that, but we'll see. Oh, I don't think anything will grow from it, but we'll see. You never know. Plants do amazing things when it's stressed out and needs food. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a cut, like I said, right over here. So here is the fresh cutting. Now I did cut it with a pair of sterile scissors just to reduce the risk of bacteria or fungus, and I highly recommend everybody to let their fresh cut callus over. And the reason for that is simply because you don't want it to run the risk of stem rotting, because it can happen. And also sometimes your scissors might not be that clean and you don't want it to have an infection and die off. So that is the reason why I recommend that we just let this cutting, this fresh cut, just callus over. Now, in the past, I have used cinnamon to kind of like, I guess, like prevent fungus from growing on it, but after doing it several times now and forgetting to use cinnamon, all of my plants have turned out fine. So I'm just gonna let this fresh cutting chill and callus over, and in the meantime I will show you the next steps as to what to do after it has callused over. So here is another cutting from another Monstera Albo, and it was actually from this plant right over here. Now this Monstera Albo was like, I would say it was 80% variegated, which is why it's looking very gross right now, because my plant room got really hot and then the leaves started to it's just started to go on me. So I also cut this plant down, and I'm left with these 2 beautiful top cuttings. And yeah, I've already actually gave it a cut, and it's callused over for about an hour or so now, and I'm actually going to show you what the roots look like. So this one, the aerial roots on this looks mighty fine, and you can see like the secondary roots coming in. So here are the primary aerial roots, and then we have these little ones over here, the secondary aerial roots, and it's calloused over perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in moss. Okay, so I have my potting mat, my cutting, some Leica, and moss. And you're probably wondering why I even have Leica. And the reason for that is because I understand through trial and error that when you're just using moss, it can be very difficult to keep your moss moist, or you run the risk of having too much water in your moss and you end up, I guess, rotting your cutting, and we don't want that. So what I've gone ahead and done was I've soaked my Leica in some water, and it's been soaking for like, I think like several hours now, with some HB 101, and I'm actually going to be using the moss from the air layering to pot up my plant. So this way you can kind of control the amount of moisture that's in the cup, so that way your plant doesn't run the risk of rotting. And when you're using this method, it actually prevents you from over saturating your moss, because whatever liquid is left in here, it's going to use the capillary action to wake up the water into the moss and provide your cutting moisture, so it can continue to grow. So I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and pot this guy up and show you how it looks when it's done. Alright, so both of my cuttings are now potted up in Leica and moss, and they're actually gonna just migrate over to the exo tank, and it's going to just live there and produce juicy roots for me and continue to give me bigger leaves. At least that is the plan. Now, I do want to say one thing, and that is when you use this method, don't top it off with more water. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I've already soaked my Leica in water and nutrients for several hours, so it is already hydrated, and the moss is already moist. So there's no reason for you to add more water, because it's gonna rot. Like, you're gonna run the risk of root rot or stem rot, especially if you didn't wait for the fresh cut to callus over properly. So that is my word of advice for today. Oh, and Tofu is here to approve. Do you approve? I think Tofu approves. So I guess with Tofu's approval, I can go ahead and wrap up this video. Now, like I had said, this is my preferred method to propagate my plants, and there are other ways of doing it. This is just what I like to do. I do find that moss helps the roots grow a lot faster, and you are able to see whether or not the substrates need water, and I think that's key to making sure that your plant has enough nutrients and water to sustain itself. Now, when you're using this type of technique, as you can see right over here, that is a root. And when it's time for me to top off, I will go ahead and give it a water reservoir just right underneath that Leica bowl, and that'll be enough water to sustain the plant for quite some time. And if you are going to fertilize or give your plants nutrients, please make sure to give it very, very diluted fertilizer and nutrients, because you don't want to burn the roots. And yeah, these guys are gonna just go reside in my exo tank, and I do prefer to give it as much humidity as I can, just to keep the moss moist and to just continue to have the roots root. And as for the mother plants, now this one in particular, I'm gonna just leave it alone, because I do see a node that may become activated over time. So that one I'm gonna leave alone. This one in particular is probably already a spent node, but I do feel like there's a node over here somewhere. Yeah, it's right over here. I feel it. It's like a little bump. So what I'll probably do is actually cut right here off and throw this aerial root away because it's not needed, and see if this little node over here grows into anything. If it does, great. If not, I will have to go ahead and cut it down over here, and this will be tossed because the 3-leaf cutting came from here, which means it came from the node that was originally here. So this is now a spent node. There's nothing here. And I do see a node all the way down over here. So this will be my second to last node that is on this parent elbow, but it is what it is. I learned something new, and that is if you cut your plant several times, it will most likely not give you bigger leaves. So lesson learned. I know, now you know. Don't cut your mother plant so many times. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.